Okie doke, we will get back out in it then. Okie doke, we will get back out in it then. Okie doke, we will get back out in it then.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We are in the KPWX HQ. We are here at the desk. We are live. This is just before noon on the East Coast. Noon on the East Coast. There are 52 of you standing here in the lobby, and that count is actually probably higher. Thank everybody. I'd like to thank everybody for their presence here. Let's go ahead and see if we get a little bit of adjustment on that microphone. That should help a little, huh? Okay, so what are we looking at and what has happened? I went off the air last night and we were dealing with a Category 2 hurricane that was pretty much staying on track so far. And what do we have now? Well, let's take a look. Guys, I want to show you this right now. What you're seeing on the left side of your screen is the clear infrared long wave satellite view, and this was at about 8:50 this morning Eastern time. That is the most recent one that I have here from WeatherWise. You can see a very tight eye right there, and you can see it's solidly formed. All right, but let's take a look further. We're going to look right here. We're going to look right here at the geocolor. Geocolor satellite. This is current. This is a current loop. We're looking at a very tight, compact pinhole eye. Within the past hour, the National Hurricane Center has updated this storm, Hurricane Erin, to Major Hurricane Category 5. Category 5 storm we're looking at right here. All right. It's a Category 5 storm. They're finding 160 mile per hour winds at the surface. And they found a central pressure of 922. This thing is kicking. This thing means business. And one thing I want to mention is whereas last night we were discussing models, I'm not showing models today, okay? This thing has outperformed model guidance in every metric thus far. Every metric thus far has outperformed the models. Now, are we still going to see a recurve out into the Atlantic? Well, that's a question that I'm sure you and me both want the answer to. So far, all model guidance is showing it doing a recurve back off the East Coast and heading back out east into the Atlantic, with the exception of the German icon, which is showing a very, very close brush up around the Outer Banks of North Carolina. No landfalls in the models, okay? But I don't want you to treat this as if it's an impossibility, all right? Just going to say that for now. Don't treat this as an impossibility. One thing that I've seen over the years is that these first majors of the year can really go nuts, and it can really exceed guidance. We hope we don't see this here in exceeding guidance. You know, I have a vacation to go on. I would really like to enjoy that beach vacation and have it not turn into work. However, if it does turn into work, you can find us right on the beach. We're going to be right on the beach. We're going to be right there bringing it to you live. That is the commitment that we make at Keystone Prime here to you, our loyal viewers. So one thing I did want to take a look at is hurricane preparedness. Am I saying that this thing's going to hit the... No, I'm not saying that. So far, all model guidance is stating the opposite. However, what model guidance also was saying at this point in time was a pretty solid track that the storm was following pretty religiously. Headed west-northwest and then making a more northerly turn in another day or two. However, for about the past 9 to 10 hours, this storm has been pretty much hauling due west. We have seen a deviation from the expected center line of the track. Now, is it still within the cone of uncertainty? Yes. The center is still within the cone of uncertainty. That's why it's called that. The center line track does not always mean that's where the eye will be. Okay? As long as it stays within that cone of uncertainty, we still have a pretty good idea of what we're looking at. Now, what we're also looking at right now is the positions of expected highs and expected ridges. Should still steer this thing back out into the Atlantic. But let's go ahead and go over a few things. Just you and me. Let's go over a few things. Because the way I was trained, you talk about this stuff. It's the most important thing you talk about. And right now what I'm going to talk about is hurricane preparedness. The basis of hurricane preparedness. It involves creating a plan, assembling your disaster supply kit, protecting your property. I want to mention this does mean identifying and knowing your evacuation routes, having communications plans, gathering essential items, okay? You're going to want to build a kit, stockpile at least a 3-day supply of water, 1 gallon per person per day. If you have 3 people in your family, 3 gallons of water per day, you're anticipating 3 days, 9 gallons, okay? Non-perishable food, battery-powered or hand-crank radio. I will say, not an endorsement, but the Midland ER series hand-crank radios are excellent. A flashlight, a first aid kit, extra batteries. Prepare your home. Protect windows with permanent storm shutters or pre-cut plywood. That thing with putting masking tape on your windows, that doesn't work. I'm going to tell you that now. That doesn't work. You're going to want to get some plywood and screw it up there. Trim back trees that could fall on your home and consider flood mitigation methods like a sump pump. Identify all of your evacuation routes and know the locations of shelters. Have a plan for your pets. Do not leave your pets behind. If you leave pets behind, you're terrible. Don't do that. But your evacuation routes, we're not talking about evacuating 500, 700 miles inland. You can actually increase your chances of survival tenfold by evacuating 100 miles inland, 100 miles away from that strike zone. you're going to want to go ahead and monitor your weather updates, heed official warnings from local authorities, and you're going to want to do most of this stuff before the storm hits. 2 days before a storm hits you is not the time to be planning this. Customize your kit. Make sure you have everything that you need for your specific situation. And you know where you live better than anybody else. If you live in a low-lying area, that might include a boat. That might include an inflatable raft if you plan on staying, which is why it's better to evacuate when your local authorities tell you to, rather than just staying there. So go over those. Go over those. You can come back to any of the services you just watched this on and hear me say it again if you need to go back over it with your family later. Right now, too, we're going to go over one of the things that is one of the bigger threats people don't think about, especially if we're looking at a recurve. If we're looking at a recurve going back out into the Atlantic, a storm can still be hundreds of miles away from the beach, and if you live near the beach or you are vacationing in that area while the storm passes, even if it's hundreds of miles out at sea, you're going to be dealing with rip currents. It's a big threat. And here to tell you more about is me. Hello everybody, Storm Chaser B. Dean Barry, Keystone Prime, and we're out here in Ocean City, Maryland. An absolutely beautiful day. They're flying fighter jets overhead here not too far away for the air show, and it is in the mid to high 70s, a wonderful sea breeze. This is absolutely beautiful and perfect conditions. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind, if you are coming out for a vacation, you need to be aware that there are certain hidden dangers of the ocean to know about. Now, we're in the height of tropical season, however, there's nothing active. But even storms that are far, far offshore can cause rip conditions. Rip currents are what I want to talk about today. Rip conditions can drag you out away from the beach, and they can be extremely frightening. A lot of people panic and tire themselves out fighting the ocean. We don't want you to become a statistic. So when you come out for vacation, know about the dangers of rip currents, and luckily we have friends here at NOAA to tell you more.
NOAA's National Weather Service is charged with protecting lives, and we lose over 100 people to rip currents each year at the beach. They're hard to detect. You ought to use all the information available to make sure that you protect your family.
Rip currents are responsible for 80% of all rescues in the surf environment. A rip current's a strong, finger-like current that runs offshore, very powerful, extremely dangerous. There's no current that pulls you under in the beach. A rip current pulls you out. It'll dig up the sand, so it'll cause a trench or a trough to be there. Even after the rip current's gone, that drop-off can still be pretty pronounced, so people will step off into it, they're not ready, next thing you know, they're getting carried offshore. What happens is people get scared or tired from trying to fight that current and think they're not going to make it back in. You can recognize a rip current by its foamy, choppy surface. It'll have sand mixed up in it, and it'll be a little different color than the rest of the water.
Key is to look for differences along the shoreline. There are differences in the motion of the water, in the color of the water, in the choppiness of the waves as they approach the beach, and the point where they break along the surf zone. In some cases you may have one of these indicators, in some cases there may be all of them, and in some cases none.
Currents are most dangerous when there's high surf or a lot of current running parallel to shore. Many times rips occur near structures like piers or jetties. Other times at beaches with a lot of slope, they'll pop up out of nowhere.
Now, you ask any lifeguard, he'll tell you on any particular day there are rip currents. So you'll have rip currents present. It's those people, the lifeguards, who know where they are. And then they'll adjust. In fact, they told us that one day you may be on 55th Street, but then the next day you may have to move down a little bit because the rip current is moving along with that.
Great information there from our friends at NOAA. And what happens if you do get caught in a rip current? I mean, it's great to be able to identify rips, to be able to figure out where they are. However, what do you do if you're caught in one? We've got more information to tell you about that too.
If you're caught in the rip current, the first thing you want to try to do is to remain calm. Stay floating. You want to try to swim along the shoreline and then on an angle back to shore if you can do so. But if you're unable to do that, just stay floating in the rip current. Eventually its pull will dissipate. But if you're a non-swimmer and you're really unable to even stay afloat, turn around, face shore, wave your arms, yell for help, anything along those lines. If you see someone in trouble, get help from a lifeguard. If there's no lifeguard available, possibly throw them something that floats and give them advice on how to get back to shore. Don't try to go in and effect a rescue. Every year people drown trying to rescue others. Don't become a victim trying to rescue someone else.
When you go to the beach, remember, this is not a pool and it's not a pond. If you're a non-swimmer, you have no business going out in the surf environment.
So now that you have this information, be smart, be safe, be prepared, know how to rescue yourself in the event of an emergency involving rip currents. And until next time, I'm B. Dean Barry. Thank you for watching. All right, guys. So that was filmed last year. Just bringing you some information about rip currents there, your riptide threat. It's going to be along the Atlantic coast beaches as this thing comes through. And one thing I want to touch on about the evacuation plan that I mentioned earlier. I did say that you don't have to go but so far inland. You're not talking hundreds of miles, talking 50 miles, 100 miles. Okay? Of course, evac zones are going to be a consideration. Many of the areas along the coast have their own zones. And it is up to you to know what zone you live in. However, that can be found at your county or municipality website in most instances. This is just a matter of preparedness. Once again, I'm not saying raise the alarm bells, and I'm not saying panic. As a matter of fact, I'll never say panic. Don't panic under any circumstances. However, you want to go ahead and take care of some of these things right now. Take care of them right now. Do it today. It's the weekend. Do it while the sun is shining. Do it while the weather's nice. That way, when things do go wrong, they're ready to roll. You don't have to run around like a chicken with your head cut off getting ready for the storm. Okay? So that's where we're standing right now. We're just going to kind of take another brief look back at now Category 5 Major Hurricane Erin churning out there in the Atlantic, coming up on Puerto Rico there. Yeah, man, and it's been maintaining a pretty westerly track. If you look at that and compare it to that latitude line there, a pretty westerly track, which is exactly what I don't want to see. However, modeling is still showing the recurve. You can also join us on the channel. Coming up on Monday, we're going to be heading out to Ocean City, Maryland. We're going to be heading out to the beaches there for a much-needed vacation. However, we'll be doing a drive stream, probably discussing this hurricane a little more, keeping an eye on things, because you got to get there first. And, you know, who knows what we might bring you from out there. So I appreciate everybody coming by for this morning update briefing on the status of Hurricane Erin. And we're going to be coming back and forth with more information as we get it periodically. Not going to make a big regular thing of it, but we will be here to bring you information, keep everybody safe, keep everybody informed, and if need be, we'll bring it to you from the beachfront. So until next time, I thank all of you for watching. This has been the best viewership I've had in a little bit, so thank you. And we're going to be bringing you more here on the channel, Keystone Prime.